The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
To Triversity Talk. I'm your host, Wendy Stewart. It's Wendy on Wednesdays, and I'm always very happy to be here with you tonight. Let's face it, when I'm talking, I'm happy. When I'm getting my messages out, I'm happy. So I hope everybody is doing well. As you know, I'm always up to some crazy performance thing, and it's always to raise money, right? So this past weekend, I did a show with the Imperial Court of New York at Boxers in New York City. I love that bar. Everyone's just so great to us there. And as you know, the Imperial Court raises money for other LGBTQ organizations, but we always have a theme to our shows. And this one was disco. And of course, I love disco because I lived through the disco era. And it was just great performing for all the people that remembered all those amazing Donna Summer songs and Grace Jones songs. I did a song by the Flirts called Passion, which was really amazing to me that nobody remembered it. Okay, what are you going to do, right? And then, of course, the whole group of kids at the bar, they weren't even around then, but love sharing anything that's positive and fun with them. And also, here we are in Boxers, the bar, and I run into someone that I am going to have on this show. He does candle making, Katie's Candles, and they were having a candle making workshop at Boxers Bar in the middle of our show. Now, does it get any better than that, right? Talk about support for the LGBTQ community. And speaking of the community, you know, I come to you from New York City, but I'm a part of Triversity, which is located in Milford, Pennsylvania. Please go to our website and get on our mailing list. We have such an incredible newsletter now. And one of our board members, Kit, writes every week. They have a different part of LGBTQ history. Kit is so young. I don't know how they know all of this, but they're absolutely brilliant. And I've learned so much just reading that column. And we also have our upcoming events on there. So please make sure you take a little look-see there. Okay, enough of the announcements. My guest tonight was actually referred to me by somebody else who had been on the show. That happens to me a lot. I meet the greatest people doing this. My guest tonight has had 25 years under her belt as a social worker, a program developer, advocacy and social justice person for marginalized communities in the LGBTQ community. And tell me, that is something that we now need more than ever. She is now the new candidate, and this will take effect in October, CEO for EDGE, New Jersey. That's really huge. She's going to be their chief strategic and operating officer. Geez, I got that all in one mouthful. Please put your hands together for Joann McEniry.
Thank you, Wendy. That was quite the introduction.
It was like, you know, I do my best. There's a lot of words there, and I just do my best. First of all, thank you for coming on. And please thank Danielle for, you know, making the introduction. I encourage people all the time, and same to you, if you know anyone that you think would be a good fit on the show, please bring them on. I love interviewing people, and I love getting all our messages out there. Now, you shared a little secret with me right before we went on air that you've not only been with Edge 25 years, you started as an intern. I love that.
I did. I started as an intern doing my bachelor's in social work. And I like to say Edge chose me. I didn't choose Edge. The organization at the time was actually known as the Eric Johnson House, which would later become New Jersey AIDS Services. And had an internship to complete in social work. And I had to take an incomplete in my last semester because I had a death in my family. I lost my brother very suddenly and very tragically.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, really.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a horrible loss. And I, as you imagine, I couldn't do much of anything. And so I had to definitely take a pause on school. And I had a professor who said to me, you're going to finish. What do you have left to do? And I said, I have one internship left to do, and that's it. And he said, I'm going to send you somewhere. And he sent me to the Eric Johnson House, which was one of our first programs. And it was a transitional housing community for individuals who were homeless and living with HIV. And I have been there since that day. And I have done every role in the organization and very proud that I'll be doing the CEO role.
Well, I was going to say, the amount of time you've been there, I'm sure you've worn every single hat. Yeah. And am I wrong in saying you've probably been there longer than anybody?
Other than our exiting CEO, Lori Litt. She was our founding CEO, and she opened the organization in 1994.
Wow. When did they become Edge, New Jersey?
So we became Edge, New Jersey. So basically about 10 years or so ago, we have our roots in HIV work and the intersection with the LGBTQ plus community and HIV, right? You can't pull them apart. There's a strong intersection between the two. They're very well linked, right? I worked early on with individuals living with HIV in the gay community and the trans community. And so we started to get requests for services for people who were not living with HIV, but were in the queer community. And they're like, hey, so-and-so is getting help. Can we come to your organization?
Wow.
And so we looked around. We are in Morris County. We looked around and said, where can we send you? And there was nowhere in Morris County. And knowing that, our work with the community since 1994, we knew we were well positioned to respond. And so we, at that point, needed to change the organization from the name New Jersey AIDS Services. And we came up with EDGE, which stands for End Discrimination, Gain Equality.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I never knew that. I will tell you the name Edge is very catchy. There are a number of organizations in New Jersey, but I always remember yours because, you just can't forget it. It is really catchy. I had no idea that that's what it stood for. Wow. That's it. That's amazing. So early on in the game, you were treating people that had HIV, offering resources and those kinds of things. What years was that happening?
So the organization opened in 94. I came in 99. And I know you're a long-term HIV advocate.
I'm long-term, like from the no, it's crazy. From the beginning when the gay men's health crisis was, I am not kidding you, it was 6 people collecting money on the dock in Fire Island that first summer and talking about this thing called GRID. Yep. And my husband had been he passed away, but he was a fashion photographer, and everyone he worked with that were also our really close friends, they were what I call the first wave. Yeah. There was definitely a first wave that took people out unbelievably. And if you know politically what was going on during that time, the reason ACT UP sprung up with silence equals death, Ronald Reagan did absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. And I have to tell you, I knew people from the LGBTQ community that were mourning his death. And for the life of me, I just couldn't. I was like stoned because to not do anything and it was horrible in the beginning. It was, and the alternatives of what you had to take, the drugs available, as horrible as the disease a lot of the time. Yeah. Thank you, first of all, for jumping in there. I mean, for addressing this, for wanting to help people.
Yeah. It's important. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. That's what we were seeing at our organization at the time as well. We were losing people weekly, and there were really no treatments other than AZT, and AZT was not successful.
Yeah, awful.
Yeah, not monotherapy, right? And
Yeah.
so, there was really nothing, and this was before protease inhibitors came out. And the facility we were running really was a place to help people end their life with dignity, and that's what we did. That we became their family, and we worked where they lived, and we had 10 beds in this little facility in Morristown, and we had breakfast together, lunch together, dinner together. And
So I want to jump back a little bit. So you actually offered shelter to people that had HIV and had nobody.
Yep.
And nowhere to live. And of course, no job because they were too sick to work.
Yeah. And people were displaced, right? The stigma is terrible now. It was definitely worse then because there was so much misinformation. You mentioned GRID, right? Gay-related immune deficiency.
Yeah.
And so there was so much misinformation that families are often displacing individuals. We had people whose families, cut them out of the family photos, right? And so once they found out that they were positive, and so we really became the family of the people living in that facility. And that was my first job in the internship that sent me to Edge. I fell in love immediately, and it has been my life's calling and passion, and really my privilege to work with so many people in both the HIV and LGBTQ plus community.
I love that you said it was a privilege. What is it about you that makes you understand that you were put here to do this work? Like, why this?
Yeah, well, as I told you, I did not choose the organization. I was sent to the organization, and I told you the circumstances why. However, I am married to somebody who is HIV positive for 30 years.
Right.
So, ironically, I was sent to an HIV serving organization without the school knowing that I wasn't telling anyone at the time.
Just supposed to be there. You were just supposed to be there.
Just supposed to be there. And so I walked in and this little tiny home, and I fell in love with the work that we were doing. And I felt so committed to be able to be present for people and to help them end their life with dignity in a world that did not afford them dignity, did not see their value, did not see their worth. I really felt it was our job to help people exit and know that they were loved and that they were cared for.
And that they mattered.
They mattered, and they wouldn't be forgotten, right?
And they wouldn't be forgotten. You know what I remember about that time so strongly? Pause magazine, I'm sure.
Very well.
Yeah. My friend Sean Strube ran it. And Sean ended up, of course, becoming the mayor of Milford, where our LGBTQ organization is out of, right? 6 degrees of separation. But back in those days, in that magazine, I remember the first issue I got of it. And I really flipped out a little bit seeing ads in there where they were offering to buy people's life insurance policies from them. I thought that is just, I didn't know how to process it. It was positive for the person that probably needed the money, but that we had come to be a society where we were buying life insurance policies from people.
Yeah.
It was a very, very sad time.
Terrible times. And so many people diagnosed without life insurance. And so, being able to, figure out how are we going. I remember having fundraisers so that we could cover burial expenses for people.
Right. Right. And I remember our organization, I was on the board of Powers. We took care of the pets of anyone that had HIV or AIDS, because a lot of the time those animals were all they had left. The partner had died. The parents were nowhere to be found, and they were alone with their 2 cats or 2 dogs and the volunteers from our organization. But I like to talk about this because I believe in paying it forward. And a lot of the kids ask me about those times, but I think, Joann, unless you lived through them, it's not something you can even describe what it was like. And I guess what is so frightening to me about now, it's like a complete reversal. It's like we've gone through a time machine and ended up back then in many ways. I mean, my fears now, and I'm sure yours too, are the funding, right? What's going to happen with funding for PrEP? All right. PrEP is like a miracle drug for the kids. There are trials for HIV vaccines that my friend Stella Doro has been involved in for years. Stella was on the show 2 weeks ago. Stella combines drag with education and is doing a show called Vaccine-alicious at Red Eye. It's coming up in June. Why does Stella do that show? To inform people that there are drug trials still going on, right, for HIV vaccines. But now what's going to happen? What is going to happen now?
Yeah, it's scary. This is scary times, right? The political landscape is endangering the lives of people living with HIV and the LGBTQ plus community.
Yes.
Across every front, right? Yeah. It's nonstop. I ran after the election, I ran 2 of our trans and non-gender conforming support groups. And so basically what we heard over and over again, from our non-binary folks was that, and our trans folks, fear about access to HRT, fear about the X marker on passports going away and traveling, fear about being forced to detransition by policy, censorship of books happening, censorship of language. So it just,
that was bad enough. I mean, we certainly experienced that at Triversity when our local high school was banning books. That is bad enough. Mm-hmm. But the other stuff, now we're really screwing with people's lives. And it is what it's done in terms of causing anxiety and worry it's horrific. It's horrific. And thank you for running those support groups, because you know what? That is going to be what all this is about now for all of us. We have got to get in there and take it from a community level. It's got to be grassroots, because I think a lot of the other stuff is not going to be available. And that's something that EDGE can do. That's something Triversity can do. The thing that I haven't quite figured out, and I've talked about this with friends in the city, is if it comes to this, how we're going to get around the HIV drugs that are going to be needed, keeping PrEP out there, and the hormone replacement therapy and the doctor visits. I mean, this is people's lives that we're screwing with.
Yeah. You're cutting Medicaid, right? So you're cutting off access to services, medical services.
Right.
People are certainly, there's a major risk that these things are going to go away. And so I agree. We need to organize. We need to coalition build, and we need to take a lesson in history from ACT UP and from other organizations that were wildly successful in advances in HIV medications. And so we know the playbook, right? We know what to do. We're fortunate, we are standing here today on the hopes and dreams of people who are no longer alive and with us. And so, we need to honor them and the work that they've done to be sure that continues today.
Absolutely. So in terms of New Jersey's got an election coming up, New York City's got an election coming up. How effective do you think the new mayors would be, the new governors would be in being able to protect policies and protect the ability for people to get the medications that they need?
Well, our current governor's done a great job, right? The current governor of New Jersey has declared New Jersey a sanctuary state for trans individuals, has issued executive orders to ensure that trans folks have access to life-saving care, medical care. Right. And so we're really happy with what's been done to protect trans rights and access to healthcare in our state. However, we're concerned because we do have an election coming up for a new governor, and it really is going to take everybody showing up.
I agree. Right, get out there and vote.
To cast their vote, we've got to get everyone out to vote. And right now, it's we really have to be sure that we're getting somebody elected who is going to ensure that those rights remain. Right now, they're under executive order. They're not codified into law by legislation yet, and so there's a concern that if we don't achieve that during this governor's, that our next governor potentially could do away with that.
Actually put it into legislation, right?
Yeah.
Right. The thing though, with all these executive orders, people now feel like they have a noose around their neck that's getting tighter and tighter, even though it hasn't been put through, it's on the table. And that is a very challenging way for anybody, for you, me, anyone, to have to live with that hanging over your head, not knowing, friends I talk to in the LGBTQ community, we talk about this all the time, not knowing what tomorrow, everything has become like zigzag, inside out, upside down. You just don't know what tomorrow's going to bring.
Yeah. And it's created a surge in mental health symptoms, a surge in anxiety and depression we're seeing. Yeah. The attendance at support groups has gone up, right? And so because people are afraid and they're looking for truth. One of the last groups I was part of, I said to them, what can Edge do to help you? What do you need? And they said, help us figure out what the truth is. We're hearing so much misinformation. We don't know what to believe. And so we started our Educate series, where we're kind of like putting educate, a play on the words there, where we're putting out truth and information, facts for our community through social media and other means to ensure that they have access to, truth.
Now, let me ask you something. First of all, I think that's brilliant. Second of all, are you sending that to other LGBTQs?
Yeah, we are reaching out. I love that you just asked that question about sending it to other LGBT centers. We've been meeting with several other centers because our focus is on collaboration building at this point.
Yeah. And I would love to get this for Triversity. I would like to have it.
Happy to share the resource and would love to see that. And I think we're stronger when we work together, right? And we have to support each other and provide each other with all the resources we possibly can so we can all be successful. We need every Pride Center to thrive right now in order to make it through this next 4 years. And so we're actually going to be doing a center-to-center town hall, Wendy, and I wanted to invite you to the center-to-center town hall. We'll be having some of the leaders from the local Pride centers coming in and really kind of talking about what are our plans? How are we going to coalition build? How are we going to move through this together? And we need to form relationships with one another now more than ever.
Well, yeah, this is for every organization that's out there. I agree with you. Again, I told you it's got to start at this local level, every local level. It has to be a groundswell with all of us getting together, and the power is going to have to come from there. Now, New Jersey, as we said, it's a sanctuary state. Pennsylvania is a whole other ball of wax. And what amazed me, we had a school board meeting, a big one, which I couldn't go to because I am based out in New York. Of course, everyone from my organization that could go went. The whole board went. What really blew me away was the amount of people in the community. I don't know where they came from. I didn't even know they were there, because our school board meetings like 2 years ago were not these people. Maybe they moved there. Boy, did they speak out in terms of what is fair and correct for everybody, and the full support of the LGBTQ community. If that school board meeting hadn't taken place, I would have never known those people even existed. So the more things all of us can do on a big community level, I think the better, the absolute better it will be for everyone. When this election came down right after the inauguration, we got something at Triversity. Do you know Jason Landau?
I don't.
Out of Pennsylvania, and now he's with one of the huge organizations. I was very impressed about what he sent around. And again, we got it in Pennsylvania because they're in Pennsylvania. But it was every action that was being done and what you could do to go against the action. And I think all of us have to start thinking this way. We have to give out tangible things to people. Okay, if this happens, then this is how we're going to react.
Yep.
We have to, you know what, Joann, we have to, and you know this better than anyone, we have to have a plan.
Right. We have to know each other first, right? Let's connect with each other. Let's know each other. Let's learn who we are. Let's support each other in our initiatives. Let's form a coalition. Let's form a community together amongst our centers, right? Yep. And so I think sometimes we operate in this little bubble in our region, in our area, and do our work that we don't always connect with each other. And we need to, now more than ever, we need to be together as a united force.
Yeah.
And so one of the things we've actually done, Wendy, you made me think of with our members, was we started an advocacy e-blast. So we allowed our members to sign up for an advocacy e-blast if they wanted to opt in. And we told them we would alert them of advocacy initiatives that are coming up that they could be part of. And so we've sent out things like Planned Parenthood had a sponsored trip to DC. We sent that out to them. And we actually had some of our members join and go to Washington, DC on the bus to do advocacy right on the steps of the Supreme Court. If there's a letter writing campaign, we're including in that. If people need to call their legislators or know there's a piece of legislation that's being put forward that could reverse their rights, we're letting them know, giving them the language to say in those letters. And so we're really trying to make sure we're engaging all the people we serve in bringing their voice to the table.
Well, it's engage and empower the people that you serve as well. And I agree with you. This can really be very effective if all of these organizations come together. In New Jersey, how many LGBTQ organizations are there?
I don't know off the top of my head an exact number, but we have quite a few. We're pretty spread out in the Morris, Sussex, Warren area. In those three counties, Edge is the only one, the only Pride Center and LGBT serving organization in those three counties. But we have lots of strong, Hudson Pride's amazing, right?
Hudson Pride's amazing, right?
We've got Garden State Equality that does great work in our state. So there's quite a few of us, but we're a little bit spread out.
So when you talk about bringing these organizations together, you would be reaching out to all of them, correct?
Yeah. So we are in the process of finalizing and sending out, our invite list so that we can bring all the center leaders together to talk about, what is the path forward? Yeah. How are we going to stay connected? How are we going to unify our efforts so they're stronger? We know there's power in numbers. We learn that.
Yeah.
And so we need to be working and pushing in the same direction, and it needs to be coordinated.
It needs to be coordinated. That's an absolute must, right?
Yes.
Because I often feel the information is completely spread out. Everything's everywhere. Our organization in Pennsylvania probably hears different things than you hear in New Jersey, but then again, a lot of it overlaps. It was Simone Krause, I think, that turned me on to Edge. I adore Simone. Simone had been vice president at Triversity. She's an amazing speaker and just does so much in terms of putting herself out there. But yeah. It's challenging now. This is a very challenging time.
Yeah. Simone we had a Transcending Stories of project at our center not too long ago, and Simone came, and Simone read pieces of her book, and we have a true LGBT lending library in our center.
Fabulous.
And Simone was able to place her book on the shelves, and it's not the first time Simone has lent her voice in coming to the center. So yeah, she's amazing.
No, but even the story behind the book, that if you ever talk to Simone, getting that book out there, because I remember when she started, and that was pure determination. There were a lot of roadblocks along the way. Simone did not give up, and I have recommended her book to so many people, both trans and LGBTQ, because there's a big message in that book. It's about never giving up. All right. No matter how bad the SHIT is hitting the fan, you never give up. You never forget what your agenda is. And you always have the power to help other people. And I will tell you, I can wholeheartedly say that about Simone. Always does that.
And that resiliency. She read excerpts of that book with our members in the center, and we had a lot of our youth members. To be able to see that and that resiliency it was just, I think, so moving. So we really appreciate Simone.
Right, and when you share that, you're saying with some of your youth members, who can hear someone else's story, and as you know, late transition is very different than early transition. I only ever knew early transitioners. When I came out to Pennsylvania, it was a whole other thing. We have this whole big spectrum. And right now, it's up to all of our organizations to address this and find a way to support everybody going forward. So what keeps you, I have to ask you this, with all of this going on, like, and I know you love what you do, I can tell, but what keeps you positive and going forward? Because I've seen a big change in a number of the people that I know. And I was talking about this with here in New York, a big change since this all came down.
Definitely witnessing firsthand the impact that the organization is having on the members we serve. Right. We've watched members come from homelessness, living in their car, to being their first ever stable housing. And so to be able to be part of that journey and see that impact, and it's one of the things that's kept me here for 25 years, witnessing the good work we're doing, right. And the incredible staff, the incredible team of individuals who show up every single day, despite sinkholes and every other challenge they're facing, and many of them in community, fear and anxiety themselves. And coming in and working with the people that we serve. So it's definitely our members and definitely our incredible team, our staff.
Yeah. Well, I have to say at Triversity, I am not there a lot now, but I do, on the money end of it, work to bring money in. And our board members are all boots on the ground, which is something we really needed. It's ironic that it's really happened now because, we have teen support groups, of course. We offer resources. We have events. We have game nights. We have a rock project, You Belong, You Matter, painting rocks. It seems like such a simple thing, but to take a rock and put a positive message on it. And again, in Pennsylvania, we have, you've got it in New Jersey too, but there is definitely a non-supportive group, a large group in Pennsylvania alone. I mean, look at what happened to Josh Shapiro, on the night of the Passover Seder. Somebody tried to climb a fence and burn his house down, and the person was going to kill him. I mean, really? This is how crazy these times have become.
Yeah. Yeah. And which is so important, projects like, rock painting and putting positive messages.
Positive messages. Yeah.
And it builds support and it builds resiliency, right? All our programs are designed to help build protective factors for the people we serve, because we know when individuals don't have those protective factors, there's tragic outcomes. I mean, LGBT youth are 5% more likely to end their life than their heterosexual counterparts.
Absolutely.
We know that exposure to these stressors that they're exposed to every single day really impact their mental health. And we know when individuals are experiencing anxiety and depression, they're less likely to have positive outcomes in their life, anything from housing to health outcomes. And so a lot of the programs we're doing at Edge, similar to Triversity, we're trying to create programs to really help support and build resiliency. And we're doing that through programs like our housing programs and our care coordination. We have an HIV testing and harm reduction.
You're much bigger than we are. I mean, we are, God bless, brick and mortar on a main street in Milford. Our center is there, which is, to me, so incredible. I remember when we first got it, our organization was started by Patty Tomaszewski from like the Sussex County area. She blew into town. She was a Jersey girl. And just, we need to have an LGBTQ here, right? And as you know, all it takes is one person with a dream. And she's like, "Are you interested?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, that sounds like something we could really do here." But it takes one person who has a vision and makes it happen. We are a way smaller center than Edge is, but you know what? To your point, by having our events, by doing community outreach and all of that, we all have the ability to get to people, change people's lives, and support in a time that's very much needed. Were you always like this where, it's interesting. My daughter is very empathetic, and she's moved beyond her corporate job, and she's going back to school to get her master's, believe it or not, in social work. And it's funny, my sister said, what the hell does she want to do that for? And but you know what, my sister's a totally different generation, and back in those days it was not the best job in the world to have. I look at someone like you with 25 years in, and my God, you can wake up every day, and no matter what, you got to feel good about yourself.
Yep. Our exiting CEO, Lori Litt, says the best. She used to say this: I wake up every day and I don't want to throw my alarm clock across the room, right? So I feel the same way. What we do matters. What I would do, what I do for free if I could afford to live, right? And in today's economy, not many of us can.
Right.
So, I love what I do, and I wake up every day, and I'm able to help bring resources to people who probably wouldn't have them if we weren't there. And reduce barriers to care. And, it's an amazing place. It's a magical place, our organization, and we are changing lives every single day. And it fuels me. Like I said, I sleep good at night. And I'm excited to go to work in the morning.
And to be able to say that is really everything. Did you know when you were a kid that you wanted to make a difference in the world? Were you born?
No,
really?
I was a trouble child. I was a rowdy girl. I'm a New Yorker born and raised, if you can't hear it in the voice, right?
A little bit. What part of New York?
Long Island.
A Long Island girl born and raised. Which town?
Suffolk County.
Okay.
Exit 53 off the LIE.
So you weren't like, for me, it was always, I would donate to like Save the Dolphin or the seal hunt, or, the children that were in Guatemala. That I was aware of the troubles in the world. And I'm telling you, Joann, from the time I was a little kid, I wanted to fix those troubles. And I think my daughter inherited some of that from me. But it's interesting because I look at what you're doing and it's huge. And yet it wasn't who you were.
No, not at all. And I will tell you, being married to somebody who's HIV positive, I got married really young, and right away had a child. I remember my child being 1 year old and looking at her and going, how am I going to raise her? Right? How am I going to raise her? What am I going to do? And so looking at her and knowing that I hadn't had a college degree or anything, and no real plan for work in the future, I decided I was going to go to school, and I wanted to be able to make a difference. I wanted to help people.
That's huge. You already had, that is so admirable, because you already had someone you had to take care of, and you were going to go back to school. That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's kind of that's in a way, that's what fueled me. And having resources available, like Triversity does and like Edge does, having resources available to help on our HIV journey was critical. We wouldn't, be alive today without resources like that. Right. And so I think having people and having social workers and having organizations to help, when my husband was diagnosed, he had 90 T cells. It was. And
neither of you had any idea why he was so sick.
No idea until the primary care doc said, hey, there's this new thing going around, right? You should go to this hospital and you should get a blood draw and you should wait 4 weeks for the Western blot results.
Remember that? It was a 4-week wait. It was like having an axe put on your head.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, it was a 4-week wait. Wow.
And so, we get this, diagnosis, and I'm looking at this 1-year-old child thinking, I don't know what we're going to do, right? I don't know what I'm going to do.
What are you going to do? Yeah.
Because people died, right? There wasn't, and he's alive today, but people died. We expected him to die, just like everybody else we knew that died.
Do you think so it was because you had the gumption to look under every rock for treatment, to educate yourselves, to, you're savvy, you know how to use resources?
Yep. And the support that I got from organizations that here's where you go for medical care. Oh, here's the new drug coming out. Oh, here's this support group. Oh, here's how you navigate this barrier, right?
Yeah.
And so like having that support and knowing the value of that support in my life is definitely something that fuels me. And I think it's something also that makes me really relate to the people that we're serving today, because it's not just service for service. It's lived experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And exactly. And it's what you can do for them and bring to them because you're living it.
Yep.
You can really help people. That is just amazing. And you're meant to be doing, of course, what you're doing. I'm sure you know that. How old is your daughter now?
30 and is a social worker.
And mine's 31 and wants to become a social worker.
Well, I taught in Ramapo's MSW program for 10 years.
Right.
So I actually am going to be leaving the program as I step into the CEO position. And it's really just because of the level of energy and what's going on in our world. I need to put all my energy into fighting for the HIV and queer communities. But if your daughter ever needs any social work education advice, by all means.
I would definitely reach out to you. She just started to apply to programs and look at programs. And it was always in the back of her mind, but the school she had gone to was very highbrow academic and oriented towards a lot of bull stuff that they told you needed to do after. And becoming a social worker I would say was not high on the hit parade. But it's what she wants to do now. I love that so she's been working already as a social worker. Well, you know what, Mom, you've done a good job.
Mm-hmm. Yep. She's 30 years of social work and you've done a good job too. Cause you've got one going into social work as well.
Yeah, because you know what, if we can't, again, I talked about paying it forward. That's really what it's about. My wheels are always constantly turning. How can I help? What can I do? I have an afternoon podcast. It's called If These Walls Could Talk, and it's more celebrity oriented. And today I had on the person from Little House on the Prairie, Dean Butler, but we were talking about, I was telling him what I did this weekend, and I realized what I do a lot of weekends, especially with the Imperial Court of New York. I perform, and all of my tips and donations at the door from all of us in the shows go to help an organization. We always have a designated benefactor, which it can be Tyler Clemente Foundation, which, all the organizations that, Trinity Place, we do shows, we go to nursing homes and all of that. And for me, growing up as a kid, I'd write out these $5 checks or $1 and want to make a difference that way. And I knew I'd only get so far. And then, because I'm in the entertainment business, I thought, I'll become just like Angelina Jolie. And I knew Madonna back in the day. Well, neither one of those things happened, Joann. It's okay. Life goes on, right? Didn't happen. But it never left my mind. I have to be able to do something. I've got to be able to raise money. I have to, go to fundraisers, meet people with money, and then get them to write the checks. And lo and behold, it took a very long time, let's just say decades, but I do that now. And I don't even know how it happened, but like you, it's a reason to wake up, and it makes me feel good. A lot of my friends in the LGBTQ community this is a dark time. Mm-hmm. We can't sugarcoat it. It's a very dark time. And, for me, people are like, how do you be little Mary Sunshine in a time like this? I'm not Mary Sunshine. I just know I got to keep it going on. I got to make it happen, as you do.
Yeah. And fundraising is critical now.
Critical.
As we look at all these federal cuts that are happening to,
it's got to come from the private sector now.
Yeah. And that's what was my first response. Okay. Because we get a significant amount of federal funding and state funding. If we lose that, I'll go to the private sector. Except now in the private sector, people are losing their wealth. Investment accounts are on a roller coaster ride. And so people who had discretionary giving, or a little bit more hesitant to give because, they're watching their investment accounts go down and then not up as much and down again. And so,
oh yeah, because of the insanity that's been allowed to happen.
Yeah. So we need fundraising now more than ever. Pride centers need people to really dig in and help them ensure that they have the revenue to do the life-saving work that they're doing.
And the other thing, because I brainstorm with myself all the time, I think there need to be more job board opportunities. When my daughter was out there looking, it occurred to me, we've got LinkedIn, we've got all this online stuff. But I mean, to tell you something, you end up getting lost in the sauce. And a lot of that, you submit your resume with 500 other people. With these organizations and the people we attract and the people that are on our boards and the people we meet, maybe all of us can think about putting on our websites, if somebody is looking, using our actual websites and having an area on there for looking for somebody that can do this or do that. Listen, people do it on Facebook all the time. We have all these Facebook groups. But what if we actually do it on our websites?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I definitely think there's space for that. And creating opportunities for people that, are reflective of the communities we serve as well. And so,
right, exactly.
Our websites are a good place to start with.
Yeah. So, my God, we're like down to the wire here, and you step into your new position in October. Can you share with some of us your game plan, that the shoes you're going to wear?
Yeah, I mean, the game plan is to coalition build, right? Coalition build the organization with like-minded organizations so that we have strength in numbers.
Right.
To continue to fundraise in every possible way we can to ensure that if the government funding we have now goes away, that we can at least carry the critical life services that people need to not only survive, but to thrive in today's society. And so, and building that resiliency, right? Recognizing the power of collective action and building those resiliencies for the people we're serving.
Well, yeah, and we can only do that by making the people we're serving feel supported and get rid of some of that fear and some of that anxiety, which it is immobilizing people. And and again, I'm talking about people that I know. People don't know what to do because of the insanity every day.
Yeah. And we know that when we support people, it works. Hey, you did it when you were helping individuals with their pets. I did it early on in the transitional housing facility. We know what works. And so we need to go back to that. We need to let history be our teacher and go back to that.
Well, absolutely. I love how on point you are with all of this. Edge is so lucky to have somebody like you as the captain of the ship, as they say. There should be a female word for captain. Captainess. Captain is it's such a masculine word.
Everything in our society tends to be very masculine, right?
Honest. Yeah, it's definitely that. So what events do you have coming up that you want to tell us about?
So on June 28th, we have Morris County Pride. It is at the County College of Morris. It is an amazing day. It brings together somewhere in 100 vendors, 100 plus vendors. There's a festival-sized stage and beer gardens and performances. Crystal Envy is actually hosting this year. So Morris County Pride for sure. Come on out, learn about not only Edge, but other amazing organizations in the community that'll be there. And for now, I think it's really important. Visibility is important. And so if anything, just to show the community, hey, look at all these queer people.
We feel that way 100%. And of course, you'll have other organizations tabling there. Am I correct?
Yep. We have other organizations tabling there as well. Yep.
And will you also be tabling at some of the things that are coming up in other parts of Jersey with other organizations?
Yeah, we are. Daniela Mendez, who you mentioned earlier, is maintaining that calendar for Edge. And so, yeah, we're super busy in June. So busy in June that the first week in July, we give our staff the week off. We call it our summer recess.
Right.
And they take the week off to rejuvenate.
Right, you rejuvenate. It's funny. I always say to my friends, I don't think I can make it through another Pride. Between New York and all the Prides that happen, and now Pride events, we are going to be having our Pride in Pennsylvania, Pike County Pride. We have it in August. So it's, this is like the whole summer where it'll be one Pride event. I perform usually at Jersey City Pride every year.
Ah, great.
I love Jersey City Pride. It's great. And I can take the PATH train to it, right? So it could be better. But 100%, we've got to be visible. We've got to be out there. We need to form these coalitions. And you know what? It's people like you that are making it happen. I can't thank you enough for coming on here. And definitely stay in touch with me. I want to know what's going on in terms of events and things like that, or anything we can possibly partner with. And I warned you, I like to take a picture or two on the computer. So here we go. Do it. Cool. Joann, thank you. You've been a terrific guest. And if you know anyone that you want to recommend, same way Danielle did, you know where to find me, as they say.
Awesome. Thank you, Wendy. I appreciate being on.
All right. Thank you, everyone who tuned in tonight. We'll be back next week. Bye-bye.